In this video, we'll be looking at some extra examples for 4.7. This is our 4.7 extra examples. So let's do a couple examples where we write an equation of a perpendicular line that passes through the given point. Number 1. So our given line will be y equals -4/3 x plus 7. We're going to pass through the point -6, 2. So this is all our given information. And over here is where we'll do our work. So our first step is that identifying the slope and finding its reciprocal. So the slope, so we're identifying the slope. So ID, the slope. So the slope that we're looking at is the number right next to the x. So I found that my slope is -4/3. Okay, step 2, create that perpendicular slope. So that's when we're going to take our given slope, -4/3, we're going to flip it. We're going to make it its opposite. So the opposite, if it's negative, my opposite's positive. So flip it and make it its opposite. I made a little mistake on my example. Let's switch this point to 8, -8, like so. Okay. So switch this point right over here in the left. There was a -6, make that a -8. Okay, so to recap what we've done so far, we have identified the slope from our equation. Now we created our perpendicular slope by flipping it. 4/3 becomes 3/4, and the negative becomes positive, making its opposite. And our last step is to plug in and solve. Remember, we're always plugging into that y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I'm always plugging into that. So I have a slope and I have a point. Slope and a point. Okay, so let's plug in. So I'm going to go y minus 2 equals 3/4 times x minus -8. Just plugging in. Plugged in my 3/4 for my m, plugged in my x1 minus -8, and then I plugged in my y1 minus 2. Okay, now we're going to simplify. So first thing I'm going to do is clean up the minus and minus, so it becomes x plus 8. Then we'll distribute. 3/4 times 8. So 3/4 times 8, I'm going to do over here on the side margin, over here. So I'm going to go 3/4 times 8. We write over our hidden 1, and we get 24/4. 3 times 8 is 24. 4 times 1 is 4, and then 24/4 equals 6. Okay, so now we have y minus 2 equals 3/4 x plus 6. Add 2 to both sides, and we are done. Okay, so there's another example on how we can find the equation of our line. If we're given an equation of a line and a point, we can build a new line equation that's perpendicular by first identifying the slope, flipping it and making its opposite, plugging our new slope in and our point in, and then solving for y. Okay, so I have another example I would like us to look at. And that's where we compare the slopes of different lines. So when we're comparing slopes of different lines, we're going to have to do a little bit more work. So this one will be tell whether the lines are perpendicular, parallel, or neither. So I have 4 lines we're going to look at. Okay, so we're going to look at these 4 lines. A, B, C, and D. Now, what we want to do is, I'm going to put this out in the margin over here to the left, is find the slope of each line by solving for y. Then compare. Okay, so let's do this. So we want to solve for y. So we're going to get y by itself for all 4 of these equations. So the first thing I'm going to do, starting with a, so I'm going to subtract 6x. So I have 9y equals negative 6x plus 5. And then we'll divide everything by 9. So we have y equals negative 6 over 9x plus 5 over 9. And then whenever we can, we simplify our fractions. So I get y equals negative 2 over 3x plus 5 over 9. Okay, now what's the slope of this line? What's that fraction? It's right next to x, right in front of x. And that's going to be negative 2 over 3. So m equals negative 2 over 3. Okay. Let's try letter B. Solving for y, getting y by itself. So I'll add 3x to both sides, and I get 2y equals 3x. And we'll divide everything by 2, and we get y equals 3 over 2x. So the slope for this one is 3 over 2, that fraction that is right in front of x. So my slope is 3 over 2. Now let's look at letter C. Again, we're going to solve for y. We're getting y all by itself. So we'll subtract 2x from both sides, and we have 5y equals negative 2x plus 8. divide everything by 5, and we get y equals negative 2 over 5x plus 8 over 5. Looking at that fraction that's right in front of x again, I get m equals negative 2 over 5. Okay, our last one. Solving for y. So subtract 4x from both sides. So I get 6y is equal to negative 4x minus 7. Divide everything by 6, getting y by itself. And we get y equals negative 4 over 6x minus 7 over 6. Simplify this fraction, we get y equals negative 2 over 3x minus 7 over 6. Looking for the fraction that is right in front of my x, right here. So I have m equals negative 2 over 3. Okay, so we found all of our slopes. Now let's compare them and decide which lines are parallel and which lines are perpendicular. And maybe there's some that are neither. So which lines can we say are parallel? Parallel lines have the same slope. We could say A and B are parallel. Negative 2/3, negative 2/3. So I can say A and B are parallel. There's my first statement. My next statement is, let's see if there's anything perpendicular. So we're looking for opposite and flipped. Opposite and flipped. So this is negative 2/3, so opposite and flipped would be positive, and then I flip it, it's 3 over 2. Oh, well, that's right there. So A and B are perpendicular. I'm just going to write perp. Is there another pair that's perpendicular? Opposite and flipped. Negative 2 over 3 over here. Letter D. Negative 2 over 3. Opposite and flipped would be positive 3 over 2. So we can say B and D are perpendicular. Okay. And let's talk about C. Well, C is, it's not the same as any of these. There's no negative 2/5. There's no flipped and opposite. There's no positive 5 over 2. So we can say that C is not parallel or perpendicular to anything. Perfect. So that's how we can answer that question. And the key is to solving for y and then identifying the slope. That was the main thing we were doing. We were just trying to figure out that slope, and the only way we could do that is if we got y by itself. We're just looking for that number that comes in front of x, like so. And then after we found that number, we could do our comparison using our ideas that we've learned. If the numbers are the same, if those fractions are exactly the same, then we say that they are parallel. If they are flipped and opposite, we say they're perpendicular. If none of that's happening, we'll just say neither, or not parallel and not perpendicular. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day.